Hi, I'm James Hamilton from Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal, and today we're going to make drawers with the Router Boss, which may be the ultimate router jig because it can do just about everything. In this video, we'll explore just some of those functions, including cutting dovetails, applying grooves for the drawer bottoms, and profiling the edges of the drawer fronts. As I do, I'll tell you about some of the challenges I've encountered and how I've solved them. Even if you don't own a Router Boss, I think you'll find this video very interesting because it's an entirely new way of doing things. Maybe it's for you, maybe not, but it still will be interesting to watch. We'll start with the dovetails. I begin by telling the online template calculator a little bit about the joint I want to cut, the width of the board, the router bits I intend to use, and if I want even pin spacing or something else. I prefer the look of variable pin spacing personally, so I select that. The calculator will turn that information into a set of numbers and a paper template that you can print out. The manual recommends printing on adhesive-backed label stock, but I just use some regular printer paper and some double-sided tape to attach the template right on top of the Router Boss scale. Then all I have to do is use my cursor to make a cut at each of those points, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. The board gets secured beneath the top plate in the front of the machine. Make sure the end is flat against the underside of the plate, or the corners may catch as you make your cuts. We have to tell the machine exactly where the board is in relation to the center of the router bit. The router plate has a laser which you can align to the edge of your workpiece, but I found I got the best accuracy by placing the point of a centering pin right on the edge of the board. Now that I know where the edge of the board is, I can zero out my cursor on the template and I can zero out the digital readout on top of the machine. I always cut the tails first with this machine, so I install a dovetail shaped router bit. Yes, that quick change chuck is pretty awesome. I think I'm going to get one for every router I own and throw away all my wrenches forever. To set the depth of cut, I plunge down so the bit touches the top of the workpiece and I lock it in place. Then I fit my mating pins board beneath the depth stop. Sometimes I also add a business card shim for a little extra space so the pins will be proud until I plane them flush later, but that's a matter of personal preference. By locking the depth stop there, I can plunge my router down the perfect amount to cut the joint. So let's do it. I turn the crank, which moves the workpiece and the cursor to the point of my first cut, and I simply push or pull the router through the wood. I move on to my next point, and then the next, and so on, making each of my cuts. All I have to do is align the cursor on the template line. If your eyes aren't what they used to be, you can also use the digital readout. Remember that set of numbers the calculator gave me? Those are also printed on the template. These are the exact coordinates of each cut down to the thousandth of an inch. You can use the digital readout to double check your cursor alignment, or forget the cursor and just use the digital display alone to line up each cut. I didn't find tear out to be a problem on this step regardless of which direction I was making the cuts, but I did occasionally splinter the edge of the board when I cut the outer tail sides. To prevent this, I started making a light scoring cut on each edge of the board, severing those fibers before I made the deeper cuts, and that eliminated the problem. Once I cut one set of tails, I can cut the next one and the next one without changing any of the setup. You can really get going and get through a lot of drawer sides. But eventually I have to change over to cut the pins. This requires a straight router bit, which gets installed in place of the dovetail bit. And I reset the depth, just as before, using the tails board this time. Of course, you can't cut the angled side of the pins unless you move the router at the correct angle. That's what these green wings are for. I adjust them to the same angles as the sides of my dovetail-shaped bit by moving the little pins to the corresponding holes in all four wings. Now my router will be able to slide back and forth at the proper angles. One more setting before we start cutting pins. On the online calculator, I was given a guide rail setting. That refers to the two black plates beneath your green wings. Moving these plates forward and back will adjust how tight your joint fits together. I start with the setting the template gave me, aligning the cursor on both plates accordingly, and then I cut a scrap. I test the fit and I adjust as needed. Usually the settings the calculator gives me are just about right, but I like to be sure before I ruin my good stock. Now let's cut the pins. I use the same template, either moving the cursor from line to line or the digital readout from point to point, or both. But instead of plunging the router straight forward and back, I angle it to one side, make a cut, then angle it to the other side, make a cut, and then move on to the next point and repeat. By making two cuts at each cursor location, you're actually cutting the left side of one pin and the right side of the adjacent pin. It's a very clever way to cut the joint, and it works really well. but you have to take care to do it properly. When I cut my first joints, I found some random gaps. It took me a while to figure out what the problem was. Turns out I wasn't twisting the router plate into the wings properly. You see, the green wings that control the angle of the router flex at their pivot points. This is necessary to allow a full range of movement when you adjust the angles. But when you start making cuts, that flexing can actually change those angles and produce misshapen pins and gaps in your joints. The solution is to maintain constant pressure, not at the center of the wings, but on the two ends where those pins hold them firmly in place. I do this by using one hand to apply firm lateral pressure to the front of the router plate, keeping it tight against the front of the green wing, as I also twist the T-handle to turn the rear of the router plate into the back of the opposite green wing. I'm really twisting firmly on the router plate as I move it back and forth. This is critical. By keeping the pressure on the front and back of the green wings where the pins keep them secure, you bypass the center where they may flex. Another thing that greatly aided me in keeping the plate against the wings was to climb cut the sides of the pins. That means when you're twisting the router clockwise against the wings, you should be pulling the router towards you. When you are twisting the router counterclockwise, you should be pushing the router away from you to make your cuts. By climb cutting, you let the momentum of the spinning bit help turn the router plate into the green wings as you cut. Finally, the plunge handle on the router is very handy, but it's not intended to pull the router back and forth. That's what the T-handle is for. If you use the plunge handle to pull the router forward, it'll act as a lever, applying a great deal of downward force, which may cause the bit to cut slightly deeper into the end grain of your workpiece and create a gap in your joint. All of this quickly becomes second nature, and you can batch out all the tail boards for all your joints very quickly once you get going. But as I was working, I wondered if there was a faster or better way to line up each cut. So I spent some time experimenting with the different ways of doing it. I already demonstrated the paper template, but what if you don't have access to a printer in your shop? If you look closely, you'll see a little slit at the top of the plastic cursor. You can use the digital readout to locate each of your coordinates, then use a mechanical pencil to draw a line in that slit and directly on the aluminum rail above the scale. You're essentially making your own template, which can be easily wiped off with some spray cleaner later. However, I found this method less accurate because the slit in the cursor is wider than the hairline you use on the paper template. It may look like my pencil line is lined right up over the next cut, but I may be off enough to leave a gap in the joint. But why use a cursor at all? Why not just use the digital readout alone to line up your cuts? You could. But in my experience, it's faster to use both the cursor and the digital readout together. I can crank quickly until my cursor is near the line, either on the paper template or on the pencil lines that I drew. Then I slow down and use the digital readout to fine-tune that position. This is important because the digital readout measures in thousandths of an inch while the crank is far less precise. In fact, I sometimes found myself nudging the crank back and forth to nail a position, only to have the digital readout jump 10 thousandths at a time. To solve that problem, you can use the micro adjuster, which is very precise, but you have to engage it when you get close to your line, then dial in the position, make your cut, and release the micro adjuster before you turn the crank on the carriage to move to the next cut location. I just found it to be a little bit of a pain to use the micro adjuster for every cut in every joint. That got me thinking about flip stops. After all, I'm cutting the same set of coordinates over and over again. Wouldn't a set of positive stops speed things up quite a bit? They can, if you use them properly. You have to develop a feel for when the aluminum finger meets the head of the bolt stop. If you use too much pressure, the finger can flex a tiny bit, and it only takes a tiny bit to throw a gap into your joint. I also found that the sides of the bolt heads are slightly tapered, so you must be sure that you fully seat the aluminum finger against the front of the machine, both when you set the stops and when you use them. Because of all these variables, I found myself using both the stops and the digital readout together. I'd turn the crank until I gently touched the stop, then I'd make finer adjustments using the digital readout to dial in the precise position. I learned to use that slight flex in the aluminum fingers to my advantage, providing counter pressure so that I can make finer adjustments with the crank instead of using the micro adjuster. But it took some getting used to, and it may not be for everyone. After working with all these methods, I think that the simplest, fastest, and most precise way to align your cuts is to use the paper template in conjunction with the digital readout. I can nail my position within a couple thousandths of an inch by eye with that cursor alone, as long as I bend over and line my body up directly in front of the hairline. I check my position with a glance at the digital readout, and if I need to make small adjustments, I use the micro adjuster. As long as I'm within a couple thousandths of the exact coordinate, I'll have no gaps in my joint. Before I glue my joints together, I better cut some grooves for the drawer bottoms. To keep track of everything, I like to mark the inside faces of all the drawer parts and the lower edges where the grooves will go. On the pins board, I can cut the groove from end to end, but I have to stop the cut short of the ends on the tails boards, or else you'll be able to see an ugly gap after the drawer is assembled. I mark a line a 1/4 inch past the base of the tails on the end of each tails board. Like a transformer, the router boss changes from dovetail mode to router table mode. The aluminum plate comes off the top, the router table riser plate goes on, and the aluminum plate goes on top of it. In place of the black plates and green wings, I install a set of long black rails. Beneath the aluminum plate, you'll notice an adjustable split fence on the router table riser. I've also installed a feather board on the bottom, and I'm adding another feather board of sorts, which is made from a stiff bristle brush on the end of a piece of pine. This will support my workpiece in all directions as I make my cuts. I'm using a 1/4 inch straight bit, which I set to just touch the surface of my tails board, with the center of the bit right on my line. This will ensure that the radius end of the groove doesn't interfere with the square edge of the drawer bottom later. For this cut, I don't want to slide the router back and forth as I did before, so I install a locking knob on top of the router plate. As I do so, keep in mind, I want my groove far enough from the edge of the workpiece that it will fall inside the tails on the tails board, but between the pins on the pins board. I usually set the end of the bit about a 1/16 of an inch from the lower corner at the base of the tail before I lock it in place. In past videos, we've often used setup bars for various tasks around the workshop. Some time ago, I got a new set from chipsfly.com with the most complete range of sizes I have ever seen. These are really well thought out sizes, including odd ones like 15 30-seconds and 23 30-seconds for working with undersized plywood. You can combine bars to achieve just about any thickness you need to set up router tables, table saws, band saws, your depth stop and your drill press and your plunge router. There's even a 1-2-3 block, which has a million uses in both woodworking and metalworking. I'll put a link in the notes below this video so you can check them out for yourself. I'm going to use the 1/4 inch bar to set the depth for this cut. To begin the cut, I have to plunge downward into the workpiece. It helps to use a clamp to hold the workpiece in place until you're into the wood and ready to cut the groove. Then you simply feed the board through, just as you would on a regular router table, only upside down. From the top, I can see where to stop my cut. Again, I stop short of the ends on the tails boards, but I can cut all the way through the ends on the pins boards. When all the grooves are cut, I can begin gluing my dovetails up. There's no need to glue the drawer bottom in place. I'm using plywood. If I was using solid wood, I definitely wouldn't glue the bottom in place. And I would also make the grooves extra deep to give the bottom room to expand on humid days. I like to make separate drawer fronts rather than half-blind dovetails that integrate the drawer front into the box itself. To fancy things up a bit, I'm using a vertical panel raising bit to put a profile on the edges. This process is similar to how you would make a raised panel for a door, and it's pretty simple with the router boss. Here I've attached the black top plate from the mortising table attachment to the front of the sliding bar. This gives me lots of options for using these T-track knuckle clamps to secure my workpiece. As I would whenever I have a lot of material to remove, I work in stages, removing a little bit at a time. I slide a steel bar into the router base and an adjustable stop to ensure the 4 edges of my panel are cut to identical depths. I begin by taking a light cut, cranking the workpiece in the left to right direction. This is a climb cut, which will give me tear-out free surfaces regardless of grain direction. I can't do that on a router table, but it's perfectly safe on the router boss. I'm taking several passes, increasing the depth of cut by moving the bit closer to the workpiece. I use spacer blocks to incrementally set the cut back from the final depth, locking the router plate in each position and cranking my way through the cut. The end cuts illustrate the power of climb cutting. Normally, I would have to cut on the end grain first because cuts made across the grain often causes a lot of chip out. But with a climb cut, I don't have to worry about it as much. I can get a crisp edge either way. The benefit of separate drawer fronts is you can use double-sided tape or glue and fine pin nails to align them perfectly before you secure them with nails or screws from inside the drawer. I hope you found all the tips in this tutorial useful for the next time you make drawers with your router boss. Wait, don't go yet. If you're new here, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. I would really appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, or better yet, leave us a comment. I always read them. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always packed with tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker.